And welcome to the PHLY Sixers podcast here on a Thursday, our second full show of the week. So many games during the week for the 76ers, so this is just our second time. We couldn't wait to get after it, to talk extensively about the basketball team. 1-1 on the season, one more game, on the week, one more game on Friday.
So say on the season, what happened to the rest of this?
Push to the playoffs, man. Push to the playoffs. You know how we just ignore the regular season anyway, but we have a lot to talk about. Alongside my partners, as always, Derek Bodner, Kyle Neubeck, I'm Devon Givens, and Brianna is hanging out with us, as always, with the production excellence that we will be here with you for this time, talking a lot of Tobias Harris, some Christmas movies, since this is our last show before the holiday. Christmas movies, a mailbag. Are we doing a mailbag there, Kyle?
Yeah, we took some questions. You know, Derek
Depends
and I
how much extra time we have.
Yeah,
Okay.
well, Derek and I were scrambling a little bit today with practice
And by
time.
the way, to be clear, it is not our last show before the holidays. It's just our last full show.
Yeah. Before the holiday. Again, post game following the Sixers.
I
and
get
the
to do
Raptors
one
on
tomorrow
Friday.
night with the co-host that I like.
Ouch.
Man.
Ouch.
Especially with you taking so late getting in last night, for the post game.
Listen, man,
trying to get out of there.
I was
Yeah,
up toiling
you did
away.
not win any brownie points with that one, man.
Oh, well, I was up toiling away until 2 a.m. writing a story for
And
this
Devon
morning.
kept asking questions. I'm like, can we go?
While you guys were
I don't
long
know.
since asleep, I was
Actually,
up
not.
into the night. So
I was up too. You should have texted me. We could have had a conversation, but we got a lot to get into. And look, the Tobias Harris conversation is always an interesting one because it can go in a lot of different ways, and that's where we're going to go because Tobias Harris's name, again, brought up in some conversations nationally about the trade deadline looming, of course, in February, but his name is popping up right now when many other names are being discussed about his possible availability. Will he be available? Will they look to move him? Is he on the table? Is he off the table? His poor play right now, as of late, how much of that gets in the way? Or the fact that his money comes off the books is a good thing. Kyle, I'll start with you. Shams had a report stating that he was talking about Tobias Harris, may be available, and it's something that teams might look at. Let's get right to it, man, because this is also your favorite topic.
Oh, I mean,
Without
as
question.
much as I love talking about Tobias on every show. And look, we did bring this up last week, right? I believe it was James Edwards at The Athletic said that the Pistons specifically were interested in Tobias, or at
If
least
he's made available.
if he's made available, which is a very important point. And Sham said today, the Sixers want to keep him around. They know how important he is, end quote. To state the obvious here for the people at home, the Sixers are not going to say anything else right now in late December as they assess what they need to do in order to turn this team into a title contender. And look, in the past, I have said Tobias might not be irreplaceable, but he's a more important piece than people probably give him credit for. Versatile defender, can step up in a pinch, so on and so forth. But I think I'm with the fans right now, having watched him in recent weeks. I've hit my end with watching him go out there and take 1 3 or 2 threes in an entire 48-minute game as one of the most important players on the team. Honestly, wasn't even that good defensively last night against Minnesota, and that's been one of his things he can hang his hat on. Had some moments, but getting bullied by bigger players, getting blown by smaller, quicker players. And I just am struggling to see how Tobias fits into the identity that they're building, where they have the 2 tentpole guys, right? Joel and Tyrese. And the rest of these guys have settled into their roles as, okay, I'm a quick decision maker. Nick Batum is the best possible example. Ball hits his hands, either shots going up or the pass is being made to whoever it needs to be made to. And Tobias is still stuck in this old, slow style of play that the Sixers don't want to play anymore, and he's not doing the things that they need him to do. So if there is even close to fair value for him, and you're not having to take on long-term money, now those are 2 difficult goals to achieve pre-deadline, I would admit, but I think it's a no-brainer that you move him at some point, as long as it's something approximating fair value, because he sticks out like a sore thumb on this team of guys who have bought in and are playing a certain way. And also, I've seen, as I say every podcast now, I've seen this movie before. I know how it ends. I would just like to give it a different chance heading into the playoffs rather than, hey, this is the third guy on the team again, and Joel might lose early even though he's playing at an MVP level once again.
Yeah, and look, to Kyle's point, the Sixers aren't going to say anything right now other than, yeah, we want to keep him around. That's the only real play that they have. It's not like you're going to put him on the market and drum up interest. I think everybody really knows what he is, and if the Sixers do end up trading him, it's not like it will never be a guarantee that they're going to trade him now because the expiring contract is the thing that matters. It depends whether or not they have other moves lined up where they no longer care about that cap space. So until you actually get to the deadline and you know what you're going to do, it doesn't make sense to potentially alienate a player who you might want to keep around, not even necessarily for basketball reasons, but perhaps for contract reasons. So they're going to play it like they are right now. I wouldn't read too much into the report if you are a trade Toby person, and I would guess pretty much everyone in chat right now is. I wouldn't get too worked up over that report because it's the only way they can really react to these kind of discussions. But man, it is just, what frustrates me about Tobias is like he's at this point in his career. What is he, 31?
31.
You're not going to expect him to change who he is as a player. Like, I'm not expecting to put him in a pick and roll and have him be an elite decision maker, or a quick decision maker, a great passer, a setup man, and lock down. He's a good one-on-one defender, but a lockdown one-on-one defender. He's never going to be a super great like team defender. You just want him to freaking take the shots that are available to him. And this, what's frustrating is before the Sixers traded for him, he was on a clear upward trajectory with that shot. Not like when he came into the league, he barely shot the three. He was that pull up, mid range, post up, turnaround kind of guy. He was
like
shooting
a Diet Carmelo type player, essentially.
He was shooting like 2 threes per game his first couple of years in the NBA. He worked that up. He became a 40% three-point shooter. He was taking nearly 6 per game with the Clippers. You're like, great. If he can just make incremental improvements of where he is now, that will be a very useful player. He's gone the complete opposite direction. All I want him to do is take, the skills that he's developed early on in his career and continue to apply them. And he just won't do it. And it drives me freaking nuts because he can shoot. I know he can shoot. I've seen him shoot. I see him put in the work to shoot. I saw him put in the work over the years to become a good shooter. Just fucking shoot. And we can use that word now. We couldn't the other day. Kind of killed Kyle's,
Yeah, apologies for using the B word at Reading Terminal to our good friends at Reading Terminal. I got a nice finger wag from them, but our colleagues.
Yeah.
So
well,
just
you
to
got
be clear.
being broadcast out inside.
I get it.
I didn't mind.
But you guys are opting into the show, so you have to deal with us curse a little bit. All I want him to do is shoot. That's it. That's a lowest of low bars, and he won't do it. Like if he's going to take 12 to 13 shots a game, I want half of those to be catch and shoot threes because the opportunities are there. And if he starts taking them, then Joel and Maxey will continue to pass it to him. It's not like a Kelly Oubre situation last night is going to happen every time down the floor. They will have opportunities, take advantage of them. He just won't do it. It drives me nuts.
It'd be like if, Devon signed a contract to work at a new Philly sports media
and then didn't show up for 3 months?
Didn't work for 3 months. Like
I have no idea how I'd react to that.
It's the perks, man. Come on. Well, listen, I mean, I'm looking at the clock and we're 8 minutes in, and I would say about 6 minutes of those are Tobias Harris breaking my friends. And
that's a good way of putting it.
I didn't expect that because, we're in this. We've seen him for so many years now since he's been here. And that was the 2018 season, 2018-2019 season. And he has been who he has been. And as Derek talked about, before he got here from the Clippers, it was talked about quite often of how well he played there. It wasn't a necessity really because you had already taken care of the Jimmy Butler piece of it. But it was more of you like the mindset of we're going for it because we see an opportunity. Elton Brand and company went out and acquired Tobias Harris. And again, he was playing really well with the Clippers and he was catch and go. He was taking those 3-pointers. And even when Doc Rivers got here later.
Super chat. I don't know how to handle that one.
And when he got here later, Doc Rivers he talked about how he would simply ask him to catch and go. Stop thinking so much. Just go. Just do it. Whether it was catch and go, catch and shoot. Whatever one it was, just do it.
Every coach that I've covered has been, man, we just want Toby to catch and go. Like quick decisions. I've heard it from every coach. I'm sick of it.
And oftentimes Derek is like, are you finished your monologue? And I'm like, no, I had a lot to say. But
that's why I interrupt you.
They were so good because Tobias has finally broken them. And I didn't expect us to get to this point where it was, yes, Absolutely. Look for something at the trade deadline if it's available. Have that conversation. Not saying do anything, not saying you have to do it at all, but have the conversation because of what he's doing. Because he got off to such a good start this season where they had 4 players averaging 20 points at one point at the beginning of the season. Yep. He was fantastic. He was playing really well. What has happened since? And I can sit here with you since we're on YouTube and it's a visual. Sorry for the people who listen on the podcast. We know what he's going to do when he gets the basketball. He catches it, sizes you up, and our buddy Vince talks about Joel Embiid often. It's like a black hole. It stops. Tobias will pass it, but it takes him a while again to figure out what he's going to do. He'll catch it. He'll jab step, right, and do like 3 or 4 jab steps before he goes. And when he goes, he does the stutter step when he tries to get to his spot, to get to where he wants to go. It's either mid-range, tries to get to the rim. He's not as athletic as he used to be, so the elevation is not the same, where he's now being challenged even more at the rim and oftentimes denied with that. You call him a diet Carmelo Anthony. That's much better than what I used to say, because I would say.
That was giving him probably some credit.
Because I would say, because I would always say he is a professional scorer. Yeah. He's not Carmelo Anthony, Kevin Durant professional scorer. He's the lower version of the professional scorer because he does do that. When he's averaging 17, 18, I'm always like, I think you're better than that. Give me 21, 22 because I can see it. I know you can do it. Instead, he doesn't do it. And that's the frustrating part. That's why after a while, we talked about it with the money. Stop looking at the money because the money is not going anywhere unless he leaves. So don't worry about it. His jersey number is no longer $180 million. It's still number 12. Just let it be. But the frustration of it all, the fact that you see them playing so well and him playing well at the beginning of the season, why is it that now? Why is it that we're looking up at the end of the game and he's taking 3 shots in 38 minutes? Why are you can't, that's impossible. That is impossible. And it's just very frustrating. And that's why I asked the question the other day. To more devil's advocate, is it more of the offense not allowing him to get the shots? Or is it him, Joel Embiid or Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, getting all these looks and he's not getting it? I was asking that just to ask it because I know what it is. These guys know what it is. All of you out there know what it is. I was just trying to look at it in a different way because it seems damn near impossible for that to happen, especially when you do that in the game 6 on your home floor where you had an opportunity to knock out the higher seed, and you only take 3 shots. All right, you go into the offseason, you're like, I'm not doing that ever again. We've already seen that twice in the past week and a half, and that is unacceptable from that player.
And to that point, Devon, Derek will back me up on this. I actually asked Tobias about that specifically at practice today. He spoke to the media, and I said, look, like your 3-point volume has been down. And I know that Joel is obviously on his major uptick right now. Tyrese has been Tyrese. But what are you seeing on film that like you can do better, or are there opportunities that you're missing? And Derek, you tell me if I'm wrong characterizing this. I thought he gave like 3 different answers in the span of one answer where he said, Nick is not saying that he's seeing that, but yeah, it's a game-to-game thing. But yeah, I can always look for ways to improve the team, and I'm in here working on my game to do it. And it's like I think he knows that those opportunities are there and that he can still do more, even with Joel being but he doesn't want to say it out loud. And look, I understand that to a certain extent, but the reason that I'm so just out on this experience is because of what Derek's talking about, where we have seen this before, and we've seen the positive part of it before, right? Like I think, and we've given him credit on this show for he goes into the offseason with a good plan, a good mindset, and generally the first month and a half-ish of the year, he embodies the principles of what he worked on and what whoever the head coach is, what that head coach wants him to do. He's coming in saying, oh, Doc wants me to be a floor spacer in the corner, taking a certain amount of threes. I'm going to do that. Nick wants me to be aggressive, attacking the rim, playing in transition, all that good stuff. I'm going to come out there and do it. And then it fades and it fades and it fades. And when we get closer to the middle of the season, certainly when we get to the end of the season, we see the guy who he is. Like you can't fight your instinct forever. Eventually the person and the player that you are shines through. And it's just baffling to me because, as both of you guys are pointing out, he does have the skill, just like the pure mechanical skill to be better on a night-to-night basis than he is, to be more aggressive than he is. Like, look, Kelly Oubre, skill for skill, if you broke it down, does not have as much to his game as Tobias Harris. Just does not. But when Kelly Oubre has a sliver of an opportunity on a catch-and-shoot three, that shot is going up. And I respect the hell out of that because Kelly will have nights where he goes 2 for 10, 1 for 8, whatever it is. But you need that guy in that role as a supplementary player to Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey to think, hey, I'm 1 for 8. I'm going to be 2 for 9 on the next one with 5 minutes left in the game and everything to play for. And that is what Tobias Harris doesn't have that they desperately need out of whoever the third guy is. Like, I don't know who that's going to be. A lot of people are going to ask, like, well, you can't just trade him just to trade him. I 100% agree and understand that. But I would say most players that you would put in that number 3 role that are good enough to be in that spot are going to approach it more like Kelly Oubre than Tobias Harris. I can't deal with that mentality anymore. And that mentality has shown up enough over the years that he's been there that I can't believe that he's all of a sudden going to snap to in another important playoff series just based on no evidence, essentially.
And the thing for me, too, in watching these games and talking to you for years about stuff, whenever we would just discuss things about the game, when I watch the game and you like certain players better, certain things, when you talk about Kelly Oubre, it's his mentality that does that.
Yeah.
Tobias Harris is also has a mentality. It's just not like that. And when I watch him, though, and especially when things stall. So I talked about Patrick Beverley last night running through the typical plays with Joel, but he decided, you know what? Look how they're playing him. I'm just going to the basket. Whether I miss it or not, I'm going to the basket and getting the shot off because it's a good high percentage shot for him. You're working off your big man. And when I see that, and I want Tobias to be like, yo, screw that, man. Give me the rock. This thing is slowing down. Give me the rock, and I'm going to go. You know what? We can ask questions later.
Demand the ball.
We ask questions later. Because you know what I just did? I did something that we weren't doing. We weren't scoring. For whatever reason, our offense has stalled. We have had 4 consecutive possessions where it has not worked. And by the way, I haven't touched the basketball. Give me the rock. I'm going to get this going. Let's get this rolling. And I'll deal with Doc Rivers or Nick Nurse when we get into the timeout. That's what I want. And that's what I want to see. And that's where the frustrating part comes in because you know the guy, and you know when this is going to happen. In January, he's going to have 2 weeks where he goes off and he's averaging 20 points and shooting 53% from three-point line because he's shooting at a pretty good value. That's what he's going to do because, again, we've seen it before, and that's where it really ticks everybody off. And I get tired of hearing the complaints of, well, he's not really getting the opportunity. He's not really getting the basketball. Yes, he is. Because when he does get it and he doesn't like a certain thing, whether it's the defense dictating it, he'll immediately pass the ball. Are you supposed to do that? Yes, you are. Because you know what? Yeah, I don't want to get put in a bad spot. But demand it back if you feel like I just needed to get it out of my hands to reset it so I can go because I know I'm going to get him on this next go. And that's the thing about it.
I don't think I've ever seen Devon this frustrated. And you can tell he's frustrated because we just blew past our ad read by like 5 solid minutes.
I saw it. I saw the time and I said, I got to get this. I have to get this going. But go ahead. Yeah.
Before we continue this conversation, I'm sure we're not done. We want to tell you about Wheelhouse Cards. Wheelhouse is our go-to sports card, gift, and apparel shop in the Delaware Valley. Their motto is cards and community and quick thinking and many three-point shots because love of sports unites us all. They carry all of your favorite card brands like Topps Chrome Baseball and Mosaic Football, as well as t-shirts, hats, and hoodies from brands like Mitchell & Ness, 47 brand junk food starter, and Scheib Vintage Sports. If you're looking to grade your sports card collection, Wheelhouse offers PSA grading submissions. They also host tons of different family-friendly events and birthday parties every month. So be sure to tell a friend about Wheelhouse Cards.
Oh, God.
Stop into either of their stores in Wayne or Westchester, open 7 days per week at 11 a.m. Use code PHLY and get $10 off any purchase of $25 or more in store. Also, be sure to give them a follow on Instagram at Wheelhouse Cards.
And guys, I have to tell you, as we do quite often around here, that if you need tickets, a last-minute gift, we're days away from Christmas right now, and you're stressed, you don't know what to get that special person in your life, The Game Time app is the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater near you. Got killer deals on last-minute tickets and their best price guarantee, so you can stop stressing over tickets, start getting hyped for the fun that you're going to have. Obviously, if you are going to a Sixers game, I'm sure you don't want to see Tobias Harris record scratch another possession. But look, guys, Joel Embiid is in quite a groove right now. Tyrese Maxey on the ascent. Never been a better time to get some tickets. Head down to the Wells Fargo Center. Check the boys out as they try to mount a title run this year. We're all hoping for it. We'll see what they do with trades. But if that's what you're interested in heading into Christmas, Game Time's the place for last-minute deals on those tickets. You don't have to plan months in advance. Deals on tickets right up to the day of the event. Get exclusive flash deals on tickets for any type of event you can think of. And the Game Time guarantee means you always get the best price. Find tickets in the same section or row for less. Game Time will credit you 110% of the difference. Tickets get sent directly to your phone. Never have to dig through your email. And for the third time, I think I've already said in this ad read, tickets make great holiday gifts. 4 days left till Christmas, guys, so don't miss out. Snag the tickets without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code PHLY for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code PHLY for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed.
Right. We have a super chat here, which I want to get to in a second. But before then, I just kind of want to wrap it up because you guys, quite frankly, had very long monologues, and I sat on the sideline for a bit.
Yours was longer.
I do feel like Tobias is the kind of guy I want to root for. Not only because he's a good guy, and quite frankly, like being a good teammate does matter, and I give him props for that. But also because, like, you know, a kind of guy who's willing to take a backseat, who's willing to buy in and try hard on defense. I think it's real easy to root for, and those are attributes that you want on a teammate, especially when you start talking about a team with two stars like Embiid and Maxey, has a kind of depth like Embiid and Maxey. I give him credit for all of that. But if you're going to play around Joel Embiid, you need to do at least one, preferably two, of three things. You need to be a quick decision maker, you need to be able to take a lot of shots and have a lot of gravity, and you need to be a good defender. And Tobias sort of kind of checks half of one of those boxes. He's a good one-on-one.
Sort of kind of checks half of one of those boxes.
Well, he's a good one-on-one defender, and I give him credit for buying in and committing himself to that. He struggles off ball, and he's a capable shooter who doesn't shoot. And I don't really know how to label that. I guess he checks half that box again. Not a quick decision maker, doesn't really have gravity, not because he couldn't have gravity, but because he almost refuses to have gravity, and that's why he is so frustrating. Forget the contract, but if you're going to be on the floor playing 30, 35 per night, I need you to do at least one of those three things consistently, preferably two, and Tobias is capable of doing two of those. He just opts out of it. And the defense, the team defense, I don't really blame him for that. That's just processing speed. He doesn't really have that. He's never really had that.
And he gives the effort. He always gives the effort. Always gives the effort.
The
so
shooting
that's not even a question.
Has to be there because then he would check like 1.5 out of those three boxes.
If you had to give Tobias Harris a Christmas gift, what would it be?
Kelly Oubre's confidence.
Derek?
That's it.
That's it.
That's it.
Yep.
Or even like DeAnthony Melton. Like, here's the thing. Melton is similar to Kelly in some ways in that he doesn't need a ton of space to think, I can make this three. And there'll be games where he's 2 for 6, 1 for 7, whatever it is.
Game 6.
Keeps going. Well, yeah, obviously there's downsides to him having that confidence, but you need, like,
he had to shoot.
I would rather live with him stepping confidently into threes than not taking them at all. 100%. I don't think that's even a question.
Not even close.
I agree. That's it.
And I just, like I said, I almost want to, like, I think my natural instinct would be defend him because I don't blame him for the contract. I give him credit for buying in defensively. Just take a freaking shot.
Except I'm typically with you on the contract thing. When guys sign that, what was he supposed to do? Say no? Right?
I wouldn't say, Sixers want to give me $40 million a year? Yes, sign me up.
Same thing with the Iguodala contract when he got 84 and he was offered 50 whatever and they upped it. And it was like, well, what was he supposed to do? Take it and not become the number one guy? You take it. But when that happens, there comes a responsibility with that, and that is the criticism when you don't do well, the praise when you do play well, and when you don't play well the way that he has not, that's when the criticism becomes what it is for the life of that entire contract. When you spend that time here in Philadelphia, you're going to get it. Right. There's responsibility that comes with that, and you have to take that, and that's not 3 points in one game and 3 shots in one game.
Yeah, and like I said, you can acknowledge the impact that the contract has on team building and also say, Of course he's going to sign that freaking contract.
Have to.
I blame that on the administration that was there at the time. Question from Rick Sachs. Does trading Tobias preclude the Sixers from a max next year, no matter what they get back? No. It very much depends on what they get back. If they get back expiring contracts, and it's a like-for-like swap, it's not going to impact you at all. Also, we've said this a lot, but having max cap space next year might not matter. It depends on whether or not they get the guy that they want at the trade deadline this year. If they do make that trade, then you don't worry about max cap space next year. But that's part of the reason why I don't think that there's going to be any movement on the Tobias trade until we get to the deadline, because you have to know what your priorities are for next summer.
Yeah, and I feel like Bojan's name has come up a lot more recently, partially because of the Pistons reporting. Bojan's a good example of he's got money owed to him next year, but I believe it's only like $2 million guaranteed. Now they'd have to cut him before, I think it's like June 29th, if I remember correctly, somewhere right before free agency, if they wanted to move on. And at that point they probably would know, hey, we have this free agent lined up, whatever. But
and at the very least, they would know what they did at the February trade deadline, so you know whether or not the cap space is a priority.
So yeah, and look, putting together an actual theoretical trade is tough without more people becoming available. Derek and I keep joking about this as we're at games and practices. It's like the same 3 people have been on the trade block for 3 months, and more will pop up over the next month and a half until not even month and a half. That trade deadline's creeping up on us. But yeah, I personally am at the point that a lot of fans are at where I want to see something different. I can't see Joel, and I'm excited for Tyrese as the number 2 guy, but I don't want to watch the Sixers in the playoffs with Tobias as the number 3 guy on a team that has at least a small chance to win a title. I just can't do it again. I want to see something different, even if it's just for the sake of shaking things up. That's not the mentality they should go in with for a trade. They should actually try to win a trade and upgrade the basketball team. But I'm just at my wit's end with this stuff. I can't take it anymore.
Love it. You broke him. Finally broke him.
I've been
talk
broken
about
a
Marcus
lot.
Morris.
Do you know the number of things we've gone through over the years? Kyle and I have been broken for a decade.
Yeah, it's...
Just one player though, man. He's just I don't know. I don't. I mean, we think we know, and I think we talked about it, but golly, man, golly. All right,
I think we had another super chat as well, by the way, from Harrison G. Question for the guys in Brianna: how much on top of Toby would you do for Bojan? Nothing, because I think Troy Weaver's a bozo who would do it straight up. But that's
one for one.
Again, this is going to come back to what else happens at the deadline. Yeah. It's just a question I can't answer now. And it's not because I don't want to answer it. It's because it depends on a lot of other things. What other opportunities are out there?
Also, I want to say, I do like Bojan. Like, I would love a guy with that kind of gravity. Bojan as an offensive fit, I think it makes a lot more sense than Tobias. What I would worry about with him, I think he's taken several steps back defensively. Like I think at his peak,
and he's a little bit older too. So when he was Utah,
he was a very good two-way player.
He'll be 35 by the playoffs.
Right.
It's a little older than I was thinking.
And look, if you're not making other major trades and you go into the playoffs with, it's like Bojan and Batum are starting and closing guys, and we've sung Nick Batum's praises on this show, right? But if 2 of your top options defensively are those guys and you have to defend the Boston Celtics, for example, I think you're in a world of pain. So that would be very contingent on what else happens move-wise with other players.
And the report was out there again about Zach LaVine and OG Anunoby with Shams talking about the Tobias piece. He also mentioned those 2. There's going to be a lot of interest around those 2, where it's not just the Sixers bidding. They're going to have some competition if that's the direction that they go. So, again, this is going to be something that continues to evolve as we get closer to the trade deadline, less than 2 months away. But maybe some names will pop up that we don't expect. Oftentimes, you just see somebody's frustrated and a team goes in a different direction than they expected, and we'll start to see those names. So we'll see. And wasn't sure I would see Tobias Harris even with that money. Wasn't sure we would see that this early, but it's certainly there. Liam also jumps in on the super chat. Most broken moment supporting the Sixers. So covering the Sixers. Is this the most broken you've been?
No.
And I'll even go while they've been a contender. I'll say it's Ben Simmons because I was a big Ben Simmons. I liked his game. Despite the outside shooting, that was the one that I would stand up and continue. As much as I would say aggressive Ben Simmons is the best Ben Simmons, it was for that reason. Because if he was aggressively doing the things that I needed to see him do, they were going to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't know about the NBA Finals, but we'll see how it played out. But that was the one where he broke me after that non-shot against the Trae Young baseline non-defense just showing up and forcing him to pass to Matisse Thybulle. That's when he broke me. So that's the one that broke me, Liam. It was because I was big on Ben Simmons, and he broke me then.
There's been so many. It would be so hard to actually come to a conclusion on this one because Ben was certainly one of them. Markelle broke me.
I'm saying that because he was here.
Yeah.
He did it. We saw it. We saw the success. When they turned, it was because of Joel Embiid and him. And the other supporting cast, I was a big JJ Redick guy, of course. But it was that.
Yeah.
He was the one that
it's certainly in the pantheon of broken moments. I will say, I think probably the one I go back to is, and Rich and I were there. I remember talking to him because we were sitting there in a room. The Sixers called a press conference and didn't announce what it was about. And Jerry Colangelo walked through that door. And the reason that one broke me was because that's when I always said it wasn't about Hinkie. It was the fact that they gave him the rope and they were willing to have a view that nobody else in the league would and job security nobody else would. That was their superpower. When they panicked and caved, that sort of broke me because that's the one competitive advantage they had was the fact that they weren't worried about the short-term timeline and were willing to take gambles like Embiid, who wasn't going to play for a year, or Sharch, who wasn't going to come over ever, but in reality, 2 years. The fact that they had a long view was their one advantage, and it was gone.
Well, he also wanted a 10-year contract, and that wasn't happening.
Who did?
Sam Hinkie.
No, he didn't.
I think it was Fultz for me.
Fultz for you?
I think because, look, the blow has been softened now because Tyrese is as good as he is, and in many ways is like, this is who you're hoping Fultz would have become in a lot of ways. But to see the skill set that he had, to see those very brief flashes that we got at Summer League before he got hurt and, exits Summer League early, and then show up for training camp and you're like, what in the goddamn hell happened to this kid in the last month, 2 months?
Stunning.
And then watching it unravel even further where, look, you could go back through my Twitter account history in the media tab and see all the videos that were posted of like him playing one-on-one in practice and just was unable or unwilling to shoot. The free throw in Miami that Rich Hoffman actually asked him about and got like
clutch
a
where he pulled it back.
Awkward non-answer. That whole saga, especially because, and I know Derek did too, we got so close to what was going on and learning all the behind the scenes stuff. Like that was the thing that really was. You can deal with the stupid burner account stuff and the Hawk series is the highest leverage colossal failure to me, right? Like I agree with you that, I mean, they're the number one seed. They're clearly the better team that year and just an immense choke job to
Have
give
the Hawks
away
even
that
been
series.
a 500 team since then?
That's what I mean.
No.
It's like to lose that series is just brutal. But the Markelle thing, because of the ramifications that it had, I mean, the Jimmy trade in some ways happens because of
that.
Sure.
what happened with Fultz. And then it's just like there's like just this huge butterfly effect that comes out of that.
He was traded for Jonathan Simmons in a pick, whatever.
Now that pick became
Tyrese Maxey.
But it's the
Maxey.
point of it that Jonathan Simmons was looked at more so of, wow, maybe you can use this defensive versatility in the playoffs because you weren't getting anything from Markelle Fultz. Unfortunately, that was a bad one. I forgot about that one. But I
feel like
stand
the one
Ben
that
Simmons
broke you though was probably trading your cousin.
And that was a terrible.
Yeah, yeah, but they were still good.
They were still good.
You know what I mean? So that was bad, but all right, you put all that stuff aside. All right, he's cool. He's going to Phoenix, all that. I didn't want him to go to Phoenix because at that time they were terrible.
By the way, Liam's bringing it up in chat. None of us even talked about the shot.
No.
I say this all the time.
That was just a basketball play to me. If anything, it's like
I think that broke a lot of fans.
For me, it was you're not going to call that travel, and I called it in the moment. Tyler Zulli produces here at PHLY. We're sitting there, and I said to him, "That's a travel," and then it goes on because I didn't think he was going to make the shot anyway. I thought it was going to go to overtime.
It was a hell of a contest by Embiid. He had no business making that shot.
Yeah. So that's why I was like, oh, you just ignore that travel when he does.
Merry Christmas, everyone. We're bringing up all the heartbreaking.
It's Liam's fault. Thank you for the donation.
One of our first interviews here at PHLY was I asked Nick whether he was going to apologize for Kawhi traveling on that shot. He wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Did he acknowledge that he traveled?
To be clear.
Did he acknowledge
he
it? Okay. Yeah, because that was clearly a travel in the moment. I was like, whoa, you're not going to call that? Okay. All right, I got it. I see where we're going. We're going to overtime, and then he hits the shot. So, no, didn't mention that because it was more the travel and then the other stuff that these two guys mentioned, plus Ben Simmons. That was bad. Thank you, Liam, for bringing that up. And yeah, thank you for that. Let me tell you about FOCO, as we no longer have Ben Simmons things behind us for display because he's no longer here. And FOCO is a leading manufacturer of sports and entertainment and merchandise with a product line that includes apparel, accessories, toys, collectibles, novelty items, and more. A friend of mine texted while we were doing the show and said he traveled twice. Maybe you could have that as a FOCO collectible if you're a Toronto fan, but here in Philadelphia, not a good one. Best officially licensed gear for all sports and fandoms. It's football and tailgating season. Couple of games left here in Philadelphia. You can get your overalls, hoodies, hats, sunglasses, bags, everything you need for a game. FOCO has hooked PHLY up and provided some awesome pieces for our sets, as you see every day when we do our shows. FOCO always has our back for Philly sports, and they have yours too. Get the best gear around by using the link in our description. For all non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10, and that's for 10% off. Make sure you jump in there again. Non-presale items, use the promo code PHLY10 for 10%. It's not too late. The holiday season to grab something quickly and get it done. PHLY 10 for your 10% off. Man, bringing up some bad memories there.
Seriously.
It felt a little bit like an off. That was Devon's first off-season show of his PHLY tenure.
Listen, man, I think the Fultz thing was really something. It's good to see him back and doing what he's doing.
And it was just wild how, and Kyle can speak to this too, how every side had a completely different perspective, and they were all 100% confident that their perspective was right too.
And and the one I felt, you felt bad for the kid, man. He was, the guy just lost, however it happened.
You could, like, talking to him and being around him, you could see how, like, completely unprepared he was to deal with what he was going through. And that's like that's why I think I feel that one the most, because on a personal level, like, set aside, like, we're reporters covering the team, we have to be objective about it, whatever. But when you see a kid, 19 years old, number 1 overall pick, all this pressure
and
foisted
the way
on
he
him,
became a number 1 pick, out
like,
of nowhere.
came from basically nowhere, and then to have all of it, and then it just crumbles, and he just can't reclaim the player that he was.
And meanwhile, everyone around you is willing and eager to talk to everyone in the media to try to save their own ass.
It was really, like, as someone very close to it, it was a little heartbreaking to see that and go through it and see him. Like, the fans, I give a lot of credit for sticking with him, sticking up for him.
The standing ovations and all of that stuff.
I think that was like the Sixers version of the Trey Turner thing, right? Like, it's very easily could have been like, well, screw this kid who came in and is making this money, number 1 overall pick, and he's doing nothing. But I think people were generally, if anything, were like, leave the kid alone. People like Derek and I, and like, I respect that to a certain degree. Like, it got a little aggressive as it tends to, but I respect that people were like, they could see that he was going through something.
Yep.
And rallied behind him. And that, at the very least, was an example of what I think separates Philly fans from a lot of other places.
My cousin asked me this question last year when Fultz really started to turn it around again. And even though he doesn't have the shot back, he's not afraid to shoot it.
Right.
And he's playing well, closing out the Orlando season really well. and my cousin asked me, who would you prefer to have for this current Sixers group? Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz? And this was last season at that time.
Yeah. And I remember Kyle and Rich and I debated that last season at some point. And I said, give me Ben because at least he's an elite, versatile defender. Not anymore.
I said, when he asked the question, I said, it's crazy.
I would take Devon Givens over Ben Simmons.
Now, part of that is because Ben's injuries have gotten so bad that he's no longer the defender he was. But yes.
Yeah, because I was, at the time when he asked me, I said Fultz just simply because he had that aggressiveness back on the offensive end. He was never afraid to still shoot. Yep. He's as ugly as it was from the three-point line, he was still shooting. But he still had that aggressiveness. And then he gave a damn on the defensive end. He may not have been as good as Ben, but he gave a damn. Yeah. Where I could accept less defense with what he was giving you offensively of not being afraid. And he would attack the basket, get to the free throw line because his free throw shooting looked significantly different and he was making his free throw. So that's why I said
his credit, he never got the three-pointer back. He never even really got the long two back consistently. But the free throw, he's gotten back to 75, 80% pretty consistently. And because of that, he attacks the rim. So and good passer, good defender. He's really, that one hurts.
And that explosiveness is still there. Yeah. So memories.
We got some trolling.
We've been through some shit,
in the super chats, by the way.
Oh man, yeah. Who we got?
We got a few that we haven't gotten to so far. But Ash says, guys, our guy Ash here very often. Guys, can you comment on the league-wide conspiracy by NBA referees to officiate Joel different than everyone else? Credit the Locked On Wolves pod. I mean, I don't even know who does Locked On Wolves, so no shade at the Locked On Wolves guy. I will say, guy or guys or gals, whoever does the show, I will say this. Minnesota fans are a special breed of unhinged when it comes to Joel Embiid. Yeah. And
it is like, Towns.
I don't say this slightly, it's like borderline QAnon level conspiracy making in the middle of Sixers Wolves games where they act like, look, does Joel get a good whistle? Of course he does. Guy shoots a lot of free throws. Does Joel get fouled constantly during games? Of course he does. Like, the funniest part of that game on Wednesday night, Rudy Gobert in the third quarter is guarding Joel around the elbow. And Joel rises up to shoot a jumper. Rudy had his hands out, the typical reach-in thing that Joel gets a lot of guys on. Gets called for his fourth foul. Rudy Gobert's immediate thought, he's putting his hands up like this.
Palms up,
sorry
man.
for my audio-only listeners. Hands up like this, goes to the bench to Chris Finch and the staffers, and he's asking the guy with a tablet in his hands. He's saying, like, I didn't foul him. I had my hands back. I had his hands back. And the guy just looks at him and goes,
come sit down, my man.
It's like, you fouled him. And that, to me, is like, look, if the coaching staff of the player who's complaining is telling that player, bullshit, you fouled him, that was stupid, then, like, cut the crap with all the conspiracies and he gets such a great whistle. Like, Joel's been in foul trouble at times recently. And I watched, somebody posted a Twitter clip of, we just want Joel to be officiated the same. And it was like all these plays that Minnesota was around the basket or attacking Joel and he didn't foul him. There might have been like a single borderline, like, oh, maybe that could have been a foul. The rest of them were just like, Joel's being tall at the basket and defending how a big man should.
I read an article this morning from Tom Ziller from his newsletter, and he was, I think he was talking about ethical scoring, and he used that in quotation marks because it wasn't his phrase, and he examined it, and if you took free throws out completely, just didn't count them, Joel Embiid would still be the second leading scorer in the NBA. Mm-hmm. To your point,
Who would be first?
I think it was Luka.
Okay.
But that's because he's a three-point heavy volume shooter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To your point, he scored like 34 points on 2-pointers last night. Like this, he's not just scoring because they're putting him on the free throw line. Yeah.
Now, look, I will say this. This was pointed out, and I think this is a fair point. One of the things that the foul drawing does, especially when it's early in games, it gets harder to like actually defend Joel. So he has more space for those jumpers as games wear on. Mm-hmm. And I understand, like, you would see that in football, right? Like when you get called for penalties early in the game, then you're like, all right, I can't play as much press coverage. So then guys are able to get off on slants or get off on, crossing routes, whatever. I understand that penalties and fouls change how games are played and might allow an offensive player to have an advantage over the course of the game. But my contention is I'm not seeing dozens of plays where it's like, that's definitely not a foul.
Yeah.
I would venture to guess 95+% of what is called a foul against Joel Embiid is a foul. They're not just inventing these things out of nothing. And yes, they're going to call fewer of these little ticky-tack type fouls in the playoffs. It is something that he needs to be aware of. It has to be factored into, this is how I'm going to attack teams. You can't do as much of the same thing James Harden has run to in the playoffs before. The foul baiting is good and it's necessary at some level to manufacture points here and there. It can't be all you do. And it's not all he does. And I hate that people who don't like either the Sixers or Embiid specifically try to boil his game down to, well, he just gets fouled all the time. Yeah. Well, that's not even close to true.
Like I said, going back to the Tom Ziller point, and then this was if you removed free throws from everybody's scoring chart, he would still be the second leading scorer in the NBA despite barely shooting any threes.
Here's my problem.
Dominant player.
As a fan of basketball and reading and watching things and seeing fans from other places react the way that they do. Here's why I call BS, because number one, let's just do the easy part. If he's on their team, it's not a problem.
Yep.
They love it.
I do wonder how much of this might go back to the
choking.
The fight between Embiid and Towns a couple years ago.
And the Eagles-Vikings NFC championship game didn't help either.
No. So if he's on their team, they're not complaining because it's beneficial for their team. That's just fandom, right? I get that part. The complaining is fandom too. I get that part also. But here's my thing, because I even want to ask this to some other NBA players myself, and we even talked about maybe even having fun with the segment called Palms Up, because like Rudy Gobert is complaining about that complaint. That is every day in an NBA game. Yeah. Every day. Every star player gets favorable calls. Does he get more than most? Well, he gets more, because he's a big man. How many big men can do what he does? Jokic, Towns.
And none make as many as he does, is the other thing.
And none in the post,
And none in the post. No big man works on the post anymore like he does. Many of them hover around the three-point line. He does, but he lives at that elbow where he gets that shot off. He can put the ball on. And then they still fall for that stupid, long, elongated ball fake at the top of the three-point line where they go for it.
He used to joke. Right? He's like, I have no idea why anyone. He's like, I shoot 32%. Why is anybody falling for that?
Why are they going for that? He's not. Exactly. So, and then the other, to go on the point again of the star players, every star player, for whatever their foul merchant play is, they do it.
Yeah.
And they get the call. Giannis
it's on the tape. It's on every single scouting report that you're going to read.
Giannis is one of the worst. One of the worst. I don't mind it, watching it, because you know what? It's an advantage to him. Aren't you, as an offensive player, looking for the advantage? Your coaching staff should want you to do those things. That is your advantage. That is one of his advantages, that they cannot defend him, so do these things. Now, I wasn't a fan of the rip-through. That part I didn't like. That one I didn't like, because the rip-through, all right, come on, man. I mean, sometimes you get it, but come on. All right, that's whatever. So that one I'm not a big fan of. But the other stuff, stop it. If other fans from other cities watch, stop it. Stop complaining. I know it's a good back and forth with the Sixer fans and all of that stuff, but if he was on your team doing this, or if Rudy Gobert, Karl Anthony Towns were even able to do that, you would love it. Absolutely love it, because it's getting more points for your team for the ultimate goal to win the game. So stop it. And it goes back to the MVP conversation of all that stuff. I saw Tim Bontemps had leaked some of the videos leaked out there. Of course he should want to win. We talked about that the other day, because who wouldn't want to? Who wouldn't want to get free throws because they're free? All right? They're free. Who wouldn't want those? So stop it, because you would all want it.
And add on to that.
Insane.
Another example.
Remember when Devon, like for the first week, was like a little bit like
mellow.
Deferential? And
To add on to that, Devon, one thing I always hated throughout LeBron's career, I would still dislike that this happens. He got dinged as like, well, he's not as good a pure scorer, whatever the fuck that means, as like Carmelo Anthony. LeBron is now the all-time leading scorer in NBA history because, to your point, he has taken the gifts that he was given physically, and certainly the work that he put in, right, to maintain his body.
You don't look like that.
He had natural gifts, but you don't maintain that over 20 whatever years without a significant amount of work and dieting and whatever. But people always discounted, like, well, LeBron just drives to the basket and gets fouled. And it's like, yeah, and he should, because he's built like a goddamn tank. Of course he should. Of course he should try to get 8 to 10 free throws a night. And then you build off from there. You don't do the opposite and like, hey, you're Joel Embiid and you're 7 foot tall, 200 whatever pounds. You don't say, well, the first thing I'm going to do is take 8 threes a game. And then maybe I'll get to the free throw line. You play inside out. You go and you punish people at the basket. You draw fouls. And then when they're in jeopardy, their lives get much tougher to guard you further from the basket. He approaches it how an apex scorer and a 7 foot tall big man should approach it. And I'm just tired of the complaining about it. If you don't want your opposing players to be in foul trouble, stop fucking fouling him.
3 quick points because we are getting towards the end of the show, and you guys...
We got a lot more, man. We have a lot, man.
A little wordy. We actually solicited mailbag questions before the show, and we're not getting to a single one of them.
Mailbag might have to wait till next
week. We'll see. Talk to you next week.
I love how Sixers fans complain that he shoots too many jumpers, and opposing team fans complain that he's a free throw merchant. How can both of them be true?
I feel like the jumper complaints have disappeared, though. I think that was
until
definitely...
he has one game where he misses a bunch.
That's probably
when you're shooting 53% or whatever on him, yeah, people stop complaining. Wait until he hits a slump. Second thing, because you brought up the NFC Championship game a while back. Remember when the Sixers fans, and this sort of ties into 2 of our topics, co-opted the skull chant into Fultz? That was great. I don't know why, but that just randomly came into my mind, and I actually forget the third one.
2 was good enough.
Well,
but I think the third one is actually the best. But it doesn't matter.
Let me add on though, because all right, the jump shooting part. All right, people talking about. All right, well,
the other one.
Go ahead.
This is the only thing I'll say defending Wolves fans, but you used to complain.
I like Wolves fans a lot, by the way.
You used to complain when Shaq would get calls on Dikembe, right?
Actually no,
because used to frustrate
because I always laugh because especially in the NBA Finals, he used to lift Dikembe off his feet just by backing him down. Yeah. He did nothing but what he was supposed to do.
Yeah.
Lifting him off his feet by backing him down. And that's an advantage.
My only point is I think these kinds of post players, physical post players, there's always going to be a lot of complaints about the way they play and the way they're officiated.
Take away the jump shooting. And you know how you talk too many jump shots, Sixer fans. Jump shooting but getting fouled from opposing fans. If he only played back to the basket on the low block, they would still have to foul him.
Oh, sure.
And not on purpose, but because they're trying to block it. He's jump hooking. He's dunking on them, whatever it was. He has great footwork, all that stuff. He's still going to get fouled. So it's because of the other foul calls on the perimeter, at the elbow, the 3-point shooting, and he's driving on them and doing it. It's because most big men ever can't do what he does to get the free throws. He gets them from outside, from mid-post, mid-range, and on the low block. And it's because he earns it, because he's a skilled player, and they have no freaking clue of how to stop him.
He really is entirely unique, because we do see 7-footers with skill, right? Chet has an incredible skill level. You just don't see 7-footers built like Shaq with this kind of skill level, and that's why he pisses so many people, frankly, on both sides of the equation off.
All right, Gavin, James Harden.
We have a couple of super chats here.
2018 discourse or Joel's 2020?
They're both all-time bad in terms of just the... And I would say this, too. Harden's stands, like his diehard people, are about as vicious as Philly fans. Like, they're very committed to
I thought his was
James Harden.
I thought his was genius.
I would put them in the same kind of class, right? They're 2 all-time great offensive players.
That's why when Devon went off on the rip-through, like, it's in the rule books. Why would he not use it to his advantage to try to get points?
I didn't mind it. It was just that was way down as far as the complaints of the things that he did. That one was like, all right, whatever. I get it. James Harden ripped through, though. It was a lot of times, though, because I'm driving on you and I'm pulling that basketball up because you have your hands out. Bad job by you. Bad job, you. Be better. Stop me. Or do it. However you're going to do it, but don't do this.
That's what Gobert's coaching staff said Wednesday night.
Get your hands out the cookie jar is what they say, right? And we had another super chat that we have to get to. That was Devon asking, How do you guys feel about Kuz, Gafford, and Tyus?
I assume he's asking about
in a trade for Tobias. We already know about the Tyus.
I mean, I was going to say, number one Tyus Jones fan on the podcast. I have to say that love Tyus. The other guys, Kuz is tricky for me because I think his contributions on the Lakers title team have become underrated over time. I totally agree. I think when he was on a team with more vet guys where he's cast in that kind of 3-4, number 3, number 4 guy in the pecking order type role, or is like coming off the bench at times, I think that suited him well. I think you got a better defensive version of Kuzma, and you get rid of some of the warts that you're dealing with now that he's like the guy in Washington. My concern is that
3 years, 60.
The contract, yes, but also that he now views himself as the guy. Right. And I don't know if you're getting him to recalibrate just because he's being traded to a team with Joel and Tyrese. Like that'd be someone that I think, as much as we've said it with Levine, I would worry Kuzma would come here and be like, I'm the number 2, and Maxey, you move to the side.
I wonder if he's young enough where you can get him back there. And
maybe
that's the thing.
It's hard to know,
he's 28.
Right?
Like, he's not super young.
Fair. Well,
my concern is Kyle's plus the 3 years, 60 he has left on his contract. After the season, you actually have to believe in him as a piece. And I'm just like, if the Sixers end up needing cap space next summer, I don't want Kyle Kuzma getting in the way.
Player for player, would you just swap him? Would you do it? Player for player, Tobias Harris for Kyle Kuzma.
If we're not talking about contract,
if we're just talking,
if we could throw the contracts out, I think yes.
And the mentality,
I take the gamble.
You take the gamble, yeah. Because last year I did ask that question, and I was getting destroyed about it. And I was like, he does the stuff that you want on the wing, where you have a smaller guy.
You would have to live with more of the head scratcher, what the hell is he doing moments. But I think there's just enough, like the right level of crazy in a way, like where he's just like,
yeah. And
you might be down 10 points, and he might score 10 points.
I think I might go on the other side of that. I think his craziness is, in part on defense too. I think his team defense is
probably true.
1-on-1, he's a decent defender when he puts his mind to it. Team defense, I do not trust him at all. I do not want that. And when you add in that contract, I'm a hard no.
Yeah, right. Well, that's why we have to throw the contract out, because I agree. I don't want the long-term money. But if you were just saying,
but I would also add the coach.
1-for-1.
I would also add the coach. Can that coach get through to him and Nick Nurse?
Again, he's 28. I think at this point you look at him as he is who he is.
Okay. All right. I got to ask before we get out of here.
And Gafford was thrown in there too. Gafford as a backup big.
Yeah, I'm cool with him. Yeah, I'm perfectly fine with him. I will ask this, though, before we get out of here. Die Hard?
We got to do the Die Hard at Christmas.
Got to do the Die Hard at Christmas
I say yes because it pisses people off, and I like that.
That's the only reason?
No, I mean, I would probably, that's the main reason, though, yeah.
Right, yeah.
So I will be the dissenter in the Is Die Hard a Christmas movie debate. And here's my case. Any movie that you would watch at a time that isn't the Christmas season is not a Christmas movie. That is my case. Die Hard has a Christmas element to it, certainly. I could watch Die Hard in May. I wouldn't watch fucking Frosty the Snowman or How the Grinch Stole Christmas in March.
Can you watch Elf in March?
No, anyone who does is a psycho. Personally, like I'm a big if it's not after Thanksgiving up until Christmas, get Christmas nonsense away from me.
Is Home Alone a Christmas movie?
Yes, and I wouldn't watch Home Alone.
But you can watch that. Kyle, you can watch that year round.
I would never watch Home Alone not around Christmas.
So, all right, looking for it.
That's one of the qualifiers.
You may not. If it's on your guide and you're just flicking through and it's there, are you not sitting there and watching Home Alone in March because it's a good movie?
Nope.
At all?
Nope.
That's psycho work there.
Wouldn't do it. Here's the thing. There's so many movies out there.
Of course there's so many movies, but if it's good, it's good.
I am generally not a rewatcher.
Oh, I'm a rewatcher.
There are certain movies, definitely, like I've seen Happy Gilmore the million times and certain other stupid comedies a million times. Yeah. But I would say I try to see as wide a variety of movies as possible. So you are damn sure not getting me to watch a Christmas movie in March.
See, I can watch Friday After Next at any point of the year. 12 months. It's around Christmas. They have a Christmas party. They're trying to get the money up for the rent in December. All that stuff. Yeah.
That's right, Shahid. I am a Christmas protocol truther. And in our household, the rule was until Thanksgiving is over, no Christmas decorations, no music. I got my ass dragged to buy a tree on fucking Black Friday. I had no choice. It's time.
If I was giving a serious answer, I would say no, it's not. It's just a movie that happens to be set and based around Christmas time. I would say the same thing, quite frankly, about Home Alone. I don't think Home Alone is a Christmas movie either. It just happens. They just happen to use Christmas as a plot point to get him.
So what is considered a Christmas movie? Is it?
It's based around Christmas.
Frosty the Snowman?
Jingle All the Way is a Christmas movie, which is my favorite Christmas movie.
That's your favorite?
Well, I will say, I'm an Arnold guy through and through. I think
there's a lot of flaws in that movie. Like, how did they not know that he was the character? I mean, this is true for every.
We got Sinbad playing a postal worker.
It's fantastic.
We got Arnold as the.
It's fantastic.
Phil Hartman
trying to steal.
Obviously,
he was. That was a bad character, man. Phil was doing some dirty work there, man.
He was a skeevy neighbor.
Oh my gosh, man, he was bad. He was really bad. But I mean, come on, man. You can't have
Here's another good one.
Gremlins?
Provolone John asked if Gremlins is a Christmas movie.
They're blowing up the Christmas tree.
2, I would challenge people to watch that and not think about the undertones in that movie because I watched it recently and it's like
you wouldn't make this again.
Questionable. They would not make this exact.
I have not watched that in a long time.
If they remade it, I think there'd be some things that either got completely rewritten or left out entirely. Let's put it that way.
That might be. I might have to go check it out. It's been decades since I've seen it.
When I saw them in the microwave again, I was like, "Oh, I forgot about this." We were trying to blow them up in the microwave. Oh, it's fantastic, Derek. You gotta go watch it. You gotta. Movie review right here on PHLY Podcast. We're going to watch Gremlins, and we'll tell you about it next week because it's fantastic. But you're right.
It fits in the problematic zone.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, there are a lot of movies that I rewatch, and I'm like, oh, they wouldn't do this. I was watching American Pie recently. Not happening. Not making that again.
Nope. No, well, for a number of reasons.
Not making that again. You're not making that again.
I need to go watch Jingle All the Way, though.
So my daughter and I, last year, we were like, let's just find a different Christmas movie that we haven't watched in a long time. We watched it again. And that's why I was like, how did they not, mom and son, realize that dad is the character of the toy?
Turbo Man?
Yeah, Turbo Man.
Listen, I will go to bat for
Arnold's
filmography against almost anybody. He's got some of the number one,
most underrated.
He has maybe the best action movie of all time, Terminator 2. The original Terminator is great. Terminator 2 might be the single best action movie.
And I was watching that one recently. It's still
that movie
really
holds
good
up today.
Still really good.
The GOAT, James Cameron, who also directed probably the second best action movie ever, which is Aliens.
My brother, who is, what is he, like 36 now, 37? My younger brother, one of his favorites is Last Action Hero.
Oh, super underrated.
Last Action. He would watch that.
Oh, I gotta get to the choppa from Money Mar. We love that. We love that. I don't know if you guys ever did the soundboards. The Arnold soundboard was a big one for like prank calls back in the day. We used to get our buddies all the time with the kindergarten cop. Who is your daddy and what does he do?
Kindergarten Cop, underrated.
He's got the range. He's got the drama, the comedy, the action.
Then he became a governor, and he, all that good stuff. On that note, folks, this was a good one. What's your favorite movie?
My
Christmas movie.
Jingle All the Way.
Jingle All
I'm
the Way.
serious.
I truthfully don't know. I have to think about it.
I just gotta go with Die Hard.
It's Turbo
Since
time.
everybody says it's not. I'm going Die Hard.
I'll go with Die Hard just to piss people off.
There you go.
I love that people get really upset.
Turbo time. It's Turbo time.
It's Turbo time in my house.
Bree, what's your favorite Christmas movie? We got to get one from Bree. The Grinch.
Oh, that's a classic. Can't
with
go
Jim
wrong.
Carrey? Jim Carrey's The Grinch. All right, cool. Oh, man, Predator, Commando, all these good things is coming up.
I'm saying True Lies. Banger after banger after banger.
Oh, True Lies is a really good one.
Conan the Barbarian.
That's Tom Arnold's best work.
Are we going to get DMCA'd? Knock it off over there.
Yeah. Hey,
I don't think you can hear it on
yeah, you can hear it. True Lies, a great pull right there. Great one. Get to the chopper.
All right, should
this
I
is a
thank
good
our
one.
people and then get
We
us
gotta
the hell
thank the
out of here?
people. We gotta thank the
As
people.
always, everybody, this went off the rails, but thank you for being with us. If you have not already, many of you have, hit that subscribe button. The bell icon will get you notifications each and every time that we go live. So the next time we talk about Christmas movies and Arnold Schwarzenegger, you can be sure to be here with us. But thank you once again, Bootzilla, Shahid, LJ, Money Mar,
Twins.
2 Minute Warning, Hypothetical Man, Rob, A, Liam, RC, Provolone John, Dan Murphy, SB, K Quick. Love you guys as always. We're going to see you
Tomorrow.
Devon and I will see you on Christmas, but before then, got one more post-game show
Big
for
game
the week.
tomorrow
Night, the mighty Toronto Raptors, Dick Nurse's former team, will be here and
Tell
we'll
a
be here to
friend,
talk
to
about
tell
it.
a friend, to tell the other friend and the family. Tell everybody. Make sure you tell them to tune
Oh, and
in.
Twins with Danny DeVito. Yo, Provolone
PHLY
John,
Sixers podcast.
my guy.
Tune in with us. We got to go to the chopper, guys. Can we borrow Josh Harris's? You think he'll let us use it?
I don't think Josh likes us enough to get us in that chopper.
Everybody, thank you for tuning in. As always, we'll talk to you tomorrow on the post-game show. Bree, as always, great job. We really appreciate it. For Derek and Kyle, I'm Devon. We'll talk to you tomorrow here on PHLY Sixers podcast.
Can't believe we thought this was.
We all silly like the mayor.